It's a pile of balls.
Good old Final Fantasy. God, I love this series so much. I was recently watching, I've gotten into music deep dives, and there's a channel, Alex Mokala, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. I'm a huge fan, because I already know what music I like, and I have a vague idea as to why, but hearing it from a composer who interacts with other composers and other musicians kind of verbalize why we hold certain things the way we do, it just brings to light a new sort of appreciation. And I'm gonna link the video in the description, but he was going over basically video game music is so good because unlike other music that's supposed to tell the story of other people or themselves, video game music has to tell the story of the game, which is a story in and of itself. So it's got a whole lot more atmosphere and personality, and it has to use sounds in a way that ties itself in our mind to the experience that we're having in the game. And that really resonates me when it comes to Final Fantasy music because I've been a fan of this series for such a long time. I was playing this before I even knew how to read. I probably mentioned it before, but when I hear certain tones, it's not just the song from that particular Final Fantasy game, you understand? There's a very specific melody that's pretty much present throughout the entire series that makes me relive all of the adventure and all of the triumphs that I've had playing through all of the different games. So when I hear the do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do, I'm not just hearing that in the main menu of Final Fantasy XIV. That small tune is enough to make me think of Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And all of the emotions that come with it come flooding back to me all at once. And I think that's why I treasure the series so much, is because every time a new one comes out, it's adding on to an entire lifetime, my entire lifetime of enjoying the series. And there aren't a whole lot of video game series out there that do that for me. And it's one of the reasons why I don't like the fact that Final Fantasy XIV and Final Fantasy XI are MMOs. Because it's not fair of me to assume that anybody else is going to have that sort of passion, that sort of connection. It's unfair to assume that anybody's going to care as much as I do. Because I have that. And I've had that for a long time. So when I have to share the experience with people who are maybe playing Final Fantasy XIV as their first game of the series, or they're skipping through story and not listening or paying attention to all of the details, all of the little things that make Final Fantasy what it is to me, it's like like I said, I guess it's a type of elitism, you could say, because the way I enjoy it feels so thorough and so correct that anybody who's doing it differently is obviously doing it wrong. And, I get that. I get that that's a crazy thing, that I'm basically dealing with mind goblins, but that's the way I feel about it. So, rather than try and force 27 plus years of nostalgia and emotion onto somebody who just might be just trying to get some fun out of a game, I decided to delete my account. Quit. And it confused a lot of my friends and a lot of people for a lot of reasons, because they're like, oh, you love the series, don't you? How could you quit? How could you not be there to see the new expansion and all of this and all of that? And it's like, haha, that's cute. You think that I'm missing out. How precious. When in actuality, from my point of view, they're the ones who are missing out, From my point of view, they're only getting just a small chunk of such a bigger thing going on here, that the very idea that I could be the one missing out on an experience when they themselves have only played maybe Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy XIV is ridiculous to me. Okay, let me try and visualize it a little bit better, right? Okay, so this right here is the average Final Fantasy XIV user. Right, that line right there. They start the game and they're enjoying it. And this one's me. Now, they see me and go, "Oh, you're here just like me. Oh, but you're quitting? You'll be missing out." And this is just because they started here. But what they don't know is that this is actually me. I can't possibly be missing out on the end of anything when they don't even know the beginning. That's the long and short of it when it comes to my interactions with people who have only played Final Fantasy XIV. Now, granted, there are people who have played other games in the series, maybe even some people who know the series better than I do, but I don't encounter them. All of the friends that I got into A Realm Reborn started here, and I started here. They only know about this. I have all of this. And because I'm so willing to let Final Fantasy XIV go, they're probably not going to be able to adapt to a single player Final Fantasy game. So they'll only exist in the sphere of the MMO that they jumped in and enjoyed. I'll be playing spin-offs, Final Fantasy 16, 17, and whatever else Square Enix gets up to. Now they might as well. There's a possibility that they'll go on and experience more of the series going forward, but unless they go back here, which not a whole lot of people are willing to do. I know Ms. Tech did the original Final Fantasy VIII and Final Fantasy VII, I think, as well as the remakes. But most people aren't going to be willing to make the journey going backwards. They're only going to move forwards. And even though I personally think that that's a shame, I can't fault anyone for thinking that way. Because after all, we're all free to enjoy things the way that we want to. So, that's me and Final Fantasy XIV. I'll always be a warrior of light. In fact, I was a warrior of light before most of my friends. And I'll probably be a warrior of light after they quit, you know? But that's one of the ways that I chose to deal with it, you know? I didn't want to ruin anybody else's experience because no matter what I do, my experience is always going to be positive. Because I've had years and years and years of positive experience. So instead of bringing negativity onto the people who are currently getting into the game or, looking forward to the expansion, I just said, you know what? Every time a new game comes out, it just adds to how much I love the series. What do I need to be here for? Why do I need to go and ruin somebody else's chance to have fun with the series the way I did a long time ago? They're getting a small part. I've already had a large part. I can't possibly be missing out because they've already missed out on so much. 35 years of orchestration and storytelling and graphics. But I finally got around to it, and it took watching Alex Mokala's video to help me realize what it was that made me quit the way I did. And even though I've stopped playing the game and I can't go back because, like I said, I got rid of the account, I'll always be a Final Fantasy fan. I'll always hold it to a higher standard than the other video games that I play. Yeah, that's it. But let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Do you have any video game series that you hold near and dear to you the way Final Fantasy is to me? What are your thoughts on the multiplayer experience versus the single player one? And what do you think Square Enix should do moving forward? I want to hear your thoughts, honestly. Link to Alex McCall's video will be down in the description below. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, and I'd appreciate it if you would give me a like and a subscribe. Ugh, that feels gross to do. Yeah, I don't like it. But I gotta do it. Anyway, see you guys in another video. Thank you for watching.